All right, guys. So I want to talk about some of the tech censorship and deplatforming that's been going on. That's really specifically targeting conservatives, and it's not just like radical conservatism. It seems like it's targeting a lot of mainstream conservatism. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So I found this article today on the Palmer Report, which just is a bunch of pretty mainstream conservatives going over how many viewers that they lost. So Ian Miles Chang said 60,000 conservative accounts have been banned. And then down here, just a bunch of different individuals. So 30,000, 15,000, a total of 40,000, 30,000 in 4 hours. James O'Keefe reporting 75,000 followers. That just is very crazy to me that we have this much targeting of a single political party. Then continuing on, I think this was reported Saturday, so the 9th, which would be Saturday afternoon. Apparently, AWS is booting Parler off of its web hosting services, which this means is Parler will have to take or go offline or find a new web hosting service. I have heard reports that they did find someone that's picking them up. They're a pretty big website, so like it is very profitable. I think what's kind of interesting is looking at the justification given here. Sunday at midnight, Amazon will be shutting off of all of our servers. This is coming from John Mates, who's the owner of Parler. Sunday at midnight afternoon, we'll be shutting off all of our servers in an attempt to completely remove free speech off the internet. There is no possibility Parler will be unavailable on the internet for up to a week as we rebuild from scratch. We prepared for events like this by never relying on Amazon's proprietary infrastructure and building bare metal products. We will try our best to move to a new provider right now as we have many competing for our business. However, Amazon, Google, Apple purposefully did this as a coordinated effort, knowing our options would be limited and knowing this would inflict the most damage right as President Trump was banned from the tech companies. This was a coordinated attack by the tech giants to kill competition in the marketplace. We were too successful too fast. You can expect the war on competition and free speech to continue, but don't count us out. I think what's really important to know here is Parler is not strictly limited to right-wing voices. I know for when I first checked it out, I remember one of the first recommendations I found was Tulsi Gabbard, who was one of the Democrat presidential candidates for 2020 elections. So I think it's really crazy to think that it's strictly just a right-wing focused thing. And I think what we're really seeing is that these tech giants are acting in bad faith. In the video yesterday that I did, I showed how I'm very confident that these tech giants know that what they're doing is increasing right-wing radicalism. They're forcing people off of mainstream platforms to then find echo chambers in smaller communities. And I think even more is like their justification of this is to avoid violence, but we know that they continuously allowed for violence during the BLM protests. So for some examples of just like left-wing encouragement of violence throughout the last 4 years, we have AOC says some poor people in the US have no choice but to riot. We have Ayanna Pressley, there needs to be unrest in the streets. We have Kamala Harris, everyone beware, they're not going to stop before election day in November, and they're not going to stop after election day. They're not going to let up, and they should not. And Pelosi, I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over country, and maybe there will be. And yes, so PolitiFact has looked into these, and they give like a justification that yes, these are quotes, but they're taken out of context, not necessarily with the protests, or they're not encouraging violence. What you see is a justification here for what's going on, and you see a defense happening continuously by the Democrat politicians that the BLM, or not necessarily even the BLM, because Pelosi was in response to the immigration stuff at the border, but you see defense of riots and violence and looting as a continuous like encouragement happening on the platforms. And Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Google, they never took any of them down. And I think what's even big in my opinion is that it was estimated. So this is a number I brought up in a couple videos now. Axios estimated that the damages due to the BLM protest was an order of magnitude $1 billion. I did mess up a video yesterday. I was looking at the wrong Capitol protest. I thought they were referring to the U.S. Capitol. It was actually a Wisconsin Capitol. But in Milwaukee Journal today, they did a comparison of that attack to the one at the U.S. Capitol, and they're estimating that the damages are order of magnitude hundreds of thousands to maybe $1 million, which is still, over 1,000 times less than the BLM protest. I think what we need to look at is what the left and the right is. So as a result of these protests, like, what is happening? We have a call for impeachment for the president who did not encourage violence. He gave a speech, and afterward he did claim like voter fraud or whatever, but that's not a call for violence. He wanted to do a march. Marches happen all the time. Marches are one of the most peaceful forms of protests that happen routinely. We have calls for the senators of Hawley and Cruz to step down. It's their constitutional duty to vote on these things. If there's an objection, they have every right to vote yes or no. And then what I just talked about with the targeting of conservatives on media platforms and then taking down a Parler. Like I said, in my previous video, I looked at this is, I think, almost proven that this is going to cause more radicalization, not less. So getting back to why I think that this shows that the left and the right are no longer what we normally refer to them. So if you look through history, the terms left and right seem to originate with the French Revolution. And the idea was that the left were like the populous people and the right were the oligarchs and the clergy. So obviously the populace had, like 90% of the population. Oligarchs were roughly 9%, clergy were 1%, but each of those three groups got an even vote. And what happened were the populace would get 1 vote, and then oligarchs and clergy would normally team up and get 2 votes. Eventually, due to just this disparity, the left began revolting against the elite classes to what we call the French Revolution. So I kind of want to just think about it very quickly to get to the end of this is, who are the oligarchs in the US? Who are the elites? I think if you look at it, you'd think celebrities, big tech, large companies, media outlets. As a result of what we're seeing, Forbes has reported a bunch of large companies have suspended donations to Republican causes, and we also saw a tendency throughout a lot of the BLM marches of organizations giving in and saying that violence was okay. I think you predominantly see all of these organizations support what we refer to as the left. The left is now the party of the CEO elites and the party of the cultural clergy. The left and the right are no longer